as though I have conquered death. I live death every day. I am surrounded by it, smothered by it. Look at you now. He would have everlasting life. You seek to defy death, yet you cannot even defy sleep. And our like sleep is to death. It is a painted death.
Yo, yo, yo. Good evening, good afternoon. How the hell are you going? I just realized that really did sound like me in Florida. That that one. I don't know if you saw that video. Jake got me to say it. It was pretty funny. How the hell are you going? No one else is streaming. You know, Rob sent me a message earlier. He was like, in typical Rob fashion, he sends me a message to say, CBF streaming tonight. Pick it up next week. Do you all know what CBF means? I figured it out eventually. But I thought, well, if you're not going to do it, I guess I'll be back. I'm back again for another bite of the cherry. We were here last night, hanging out with some cool people, drawing. I was pretending to flat. Mo Biggs has it. Rob can't even be bothered typing out the entire 3 words. Too much for Rob. You know, he's just been too busy of late, I suppose. Hail Jeremy Burtz. We got Crystal McGee in the house. Congratulations, Crystal. She just funded her book over on Narwhals. I guess about 5 or 6 hours ago or something. I was dipping in and out. I was at work today. Mo Biggs was first, although I haven't set up any first, so I'll just say it. Mo Biggs, you were first. You get it. It's going to be pretty chill tonight. I was just working on this here. My John Wick homage. Who else is in the house? McShort is here. What's up, you bloody legends? What's up to you, McShort? Coloring. Now, Mo, you're sending me mixed messages. You always want to be in dollary doos, but then you want me to spell coloring without a U. I don't know what's going on. Butterbear's here. Who else is here? Butterbear says, double at work for my birthday, so because of it, this one is for that F Danny. Well, happy birthday. Is it Butterbear or Buddha Bear? I'm not sure. Dearman's in the house. Skip Edwards is here. Hello, Skip. I shared something of yours today. Ralph Mack, fellow poker player. I just found out. Ralph plays at about the stakes that I used to play at the casino. I never made the jump up to the bigger tables because that's where all the pros were. And I found I could make more money just going off Weekend Warriors. Junk 666 is here. Dean is here. He says, g'day. Anonymity's here. Andrew Campbell says, big ups. Kenjack Ben's in the house. Who else? I said, if you want to be a real American. Well, I'm the one looking at Florida puppies. Well, daydreaming. They're still quite expensive. You know, I don't know if I have that kind of scratch. But it says Bancroft made most of his poker money under the table. Well, all poker money in Australia is under the table technically because you don't claim tax on your winnings or losses. Winslow's here. Says, how, Mike? How right back at you. Let me share this actually for a second. Stop sharing that. Start sharing this. 23 beautiful people here at some ungodly hour. Thank you so much, everyone, for hanging out. We are, of course, simulcast live on Rumble. Wow, 6 people watching. Fantastic. Hail you Rumblers. It's quiet over there in the chat at the moment. We just started. Let's expand this. Look at that. Look at what Jake did. This is funny. I put out this tweet the other day. I said, playtime is over, back to work. And I posted some new panels that I've recently remastered the colors on. And Wyatt said, next issue of the Lucent is sitting in big, awesome chairs. And I said, yes, bigger and bigger chairs with each book. So Jake took it upon himself to do this little sketch. I like it. I like it a lot. So I put out this tweet. Oh, yeah, I forgot. 23,000 people watching. Yeah, dream big. We got Jeff Dude in the house. He's Howland CG. Buddha Bear says, you said it right and should move to Buddha, Texas. And we will get to catch on. Well, I don't think we're at the planning where to live just yet. We're mostly planning on how do we actually get there and do that. It's a Jawa. It looked like a Jawa. Williams joined us. How you going? Biker Angelo. Share the stream out. No one else is streaming. I think we were streaming up against Shane yesterday. Shane at the end of the John stream was like, I'm not going to stream. It's too late. And then start up a stream exactly at the same time. And that's why I streamed, because he said he wouldn't, but that's all right. Crazy Mad, how you going? Bancroft, did you notice that Arthurline went back to the proper spelling? Oh, did he? He did. It's Atherline again. It was because I heard it was because Camel kept saying Arthurline because Camel doesn't ever read anyone's name. Ralph Mack says, I played 2-5 accidentally. Turns out there's fish there too. Oh, of course. It's mostly fish at 2-5. It's just fish with more money. So the swings are hard, but you can do it, Ralph. I believe in you. Ralph said he made 6,000 over the last, 6 weeks? That's not bad. Jeff says, just come over in the California-Mexican border. Can I bring the whole family that way? I hear it's dangerous. Crazy Mad's here. J Max, no, he was spelling it without the R for a long time. Oh, no. Dean says it's because I called him out on his gaslighting. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, I wanted to share this out. I have had people do fan art for me in the past, and I've printed a whole lot of it, but there's some that I didn't, and I can't find it anymore. I don't know what's going on. With Twitter, it only lets you go back a certain distance, it seems, back in time. But here's the Antoine Dennison postcard that if you all backed Waking Dream, and actually a lot of you who backed The Second Chance would have gotten this as well. I love that postcard. Hal Antoine. Classic. Of course, there was the 6 a.m. sticker, which I have many of stuck around the house. I love that. There was the O-Ren piece. That's probably the newest piece. That blew me away. Ended up turning that into a print. There was the Ray Rahu sketch that became a bookmark, my very first ever Lucent bookmark. And then there was this, which Skip just knocked out, just out of the blue. This incredible full page friggin' masterpiece here. What's Skip going to do with this? I don't know, but amazing. Absolutely amazing. Mo says Bancroft thinks Camel hung the moon. Is that a saying? I don't know. Mo says Butch Killigan is the favorite to win the Lucid Art contest. Phantom Harlock can't sleep. Well, I'm glad to be here to help you share your insomnia. I had some pretty crazy insomnia in Florida as well, just because we're staying up so late. And you get past a certain point that's hard to get to sleep. I think I was up till like 5 or 6 o'clock on some nights. It's pretty bad. No, never heard that saying. It's funny, you know, between America and Australia, so much is the same. We're about 80% the same culturally, but that 20% is different enough that it does kind of hit you. Camel says he kept knocking on my door asking to join him. Now you know that isn't true, Camel. I don't know if Camel's up. I don't know if he can pop in. I'm gonna send him the link. I can never find Twitter anymore because it's freaking X. Hold on a sec. I'll pop the link in. That was fun last night. I'll pop the link in a couple of places. See what we can get in here. He might just be chilling. I don't know. Put it there. I'll put it. Yeah. There we go. Oh, she blows. That was a saying was used even in The Simpsons. Well, I probably glossed over it, went over my head. I just chuckled along. But then I also thought I should post some reference stuff. So here's a sketch I did of Ella. Here's all my reference heads of Ella. These are all taken from Paint to Death. She put her hair up into a high ponytail. A lot easier to draw. Some more. Mostly hair. A lot of hair. And I said, if anyone, and I know a bunch of you have, if anyone has done a fan art piece in the past, please share it again so I can add it there because I can't find them anymore. They're gone. Skip says, who was the biggest disappointment to meet in Tampa? You can tell us. Why is everyone is fishing for drama? Hold on a sec. There was a boop. Yo.
It's me, your biggest disappointment.
Why is everyone thinking? Everyone's looking for the goss. And it was over a week ago now.
That's because everyone has sad lives, you know.
Yeah, it must be.
Drama. Just like, I need something. Just tell me something. Something happened, right? No. Believe it or not, life is pretty average.
Yeah. Dean says, just wait until you see mine, Bancroft. Gonna blow minds. I believe it, Dean. I believe it. Was it your first time? Yes, it was. And Camel was one of the first Americans I ever met in America. There were a couple of others before you, but they're just by happen chance, randomly. What time is it over there?
Our eyes met in the airport.
They did. Next to the baggage carousel.
We ran into each other's arms.
I kind of did. I hopped up and I was like,
I was like, ah!
It was like Forrest Gump.
Hi, Jenny. It's 3:45. I'm eating a big sandwich, so I will turn my camera off when I take a bite. Just letting you know.
You know, you being such a night owl ended up being pretty fortuitous for me because it meant that I didn't have any jet lag.
Oh, that's good.
At all.
Yeah.
There was maybe like 1 hour in it, but I mean, that's nothing. You can sleep right through that. It's fine. You know, I woke up at like 4 instead of 5. It's like, oh, that's fine. But it was great. Just slotted right back into it. Although on the plane home, they woke me up at 1:30 a.m. Melbourne time to give me a friggin' chicken sandwich. And I'm like, it's free food. I'm going to eat it. You wake me up in the middle of the night to give me a sandwich. I'm going to eat it. But I did think it was a little weird.
Every flight I fly, no food.
Yeah, they don't give food domestic. Even long ones. Even Chicago to San Francisco was 4.5 hours, and all I got was a bag of pretzels.
That was one of the big changes no one talks about after 9/11. That was like, there was no more food on flights. That was pretty much it. Unless you were going like 4.5, 5 hours one of these prepackaged things. But other than that, it was, I remember when I was a kid, like you'd get fucking a meal. It was like,
Yeah. Well, you still get that
cooked.
on the international.
Oh yeah, no, we don't, not anymore. That used to be a little bit more prevalent.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I made it. I've come to a conclusion over the last day or so because I've been umming and ahhing about whether I start you guys call it an LLC.
Yeah.
We call it a proprietary limited company. I don't think I am. I don't think I'm going to just yet. It may happen. I may be forced to in a year or so, but I think I'm just going to spend all my money, so I don't have to pay any taxes.
What we found was, it's worth it the first year because you can say like, well, this however much. If you don't have it, like then you have to whatever you have allotted for your product, you have to pay tax on.
Yeah.
But by the second year and third year, you can start writing that stuff off. So it never really became too much of an issue. It's just, you kind of had to eat it initially, but then we were able to write it off later. So, it's really just, I don't know what the massive benefit would be outside of the first year. I'm sure there's a million people that can tell me otherwise.
There is a benefit, at least here in Australia. It might be completely different over there. So, well, because I have an income, if I don't have a company, whatever I earn, whatever I profit from the, YouTube and everything and comic books, I get taxed on a pretty high bracket because it gets added to my income. Whereas if it was a company, it would just be a flat 25% company tax. But I figure if I just spend the money on things that I need for the business, maybe a new computer, maybe trips to the States, to conventions, marketing, that sort of stuff, then, I don't have to pay the government anything.
The way it works here is, I think similarly, like we decided it wasn't really super necessary because unless my campaigns were making six figures, and maybe one day they will, that'd be great. But until then, I wasn't being ushered into a new tax bracket. So it was like, well, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, anyway, that's the plan.
Can also,
for the moment.
I don't know how it is there, but here I can still run a home business without being an LLC. So
yes,
we still do
same
that.
thing.
Yeah. And so we still get the write-offs and like, you've seen the house, right? So like my office is all work and we're also able to.
And a little bit of play.
Yeah, just a toy. But we're even able to write off the foyer area because that's where I do all the drawing. Then we can write off your guest room because that's a second computer room when you're not in there. So yeah, we have a lot of space that we're able to use.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, and that's what I think I'm gonna do. Courtney asks, "Are you sick? Yeah, you sound a little congested."
No, me?
Yeah.
No, I feel fine.
Maybe just a bit sniffly. A lot of people have been sick from the convention, and I'm worried that.
No. I mean, I'm eating this sandwich, so I don't know.
Maybe that's it. I just figure, look, I mean, wouldn't it be awesome if I could come over once or twice a year?
Yes, that's what I said when you were here. I was like, we got to make it annual.
Yeah. Right, and otherwise I'm just giving it to the Australian government. And you know what they do with it?
Yeah.
Friggin'
they give people boosters they don't want.
they just try and oh my God, you should hear what they're trying to do at schools now. I mean, it's freaking crazy. The annual pilgrimage of Bancroft, says Hyper Wizard. Yes, exactly. All write-offs.
Yeah, no, it was wonderful having you. Sam was like, he's the best guest we've ever had. So,
oh, thank you, Sam.
Yeah,
I did when you were kind of dropping me hints, like well, your previous guests, they did this, they did that. And I was like, all right.
Oh, yeah. They weren't hints. It's like, I had a friend who was hanging out with me the week before Mike showed up. Old friend, known him since high school. And so one day I don't know, he left the light on in his room or something. I was like, oh, let me go turn this off. And I go in there, and on the bureau in the guest room, there's all these pics of me and my wife. And he turned them all around. I was like, what a
now, did he turn them down to face
No,
the
just
thing
they're
or
all
just
facing the wall.
Like, so you're facing the wall.
I was like, what a fucking loony, what a psycho. It's like, that's what serial killers do, bro. And I said to him, I was like,
he's like scratching out the eyes and stuff.
And I was like, what? And I called him. I was like, what? And he was super embarrassed. He's like, oh, well, they're looking at me when I'm sleeping. And the first thing I thought was, no, you're jerking it off. He didn't want to look at me and my wife looking at you. It's like, dude, come on. Fucking, you can't. Can you just keep it in your pants for 2 days?
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Super Thor says he didn't want an audience. Yeah, exactly.
Look, understandable. But, I mean, you could try to not, you could try to control your
Can you just not? Yeah, how about that?
Can you just come to your friend's house and jerk off in their spare room?
I had another friend who was telling me about how he jerked off in the dentist chair. Because sometimes they give you that numbing agent. They come back in an hour, and I was like, "What if he came back?" And he was like, "Well, I took the gamble he wouldn't." And I was like, "You're crazy. I don't want to. Why are you telling me this? I don't need to know this."
Oh my God. Weirdos, a lot of them.
Yeah, everyone I know. I believe it or not, I'm the most normal person of all the people I know, except for Mike. That's
everyone
scary.
was saying you were a bit unusual, because you have a style when you dress, you have a look. And I don't know, I'm from Melbourne, so everyone here, like, you'll get people who dress like they're from the 70s, like a pinstripe suit or stuff like that. So it was completely normal to me, but I guess, and it was weird because people were saying that at a convention where you had lunatics walking around in friggin' furry outfits, and they're like, "Oh, look, Camel's dressed a bit kookily. Is he?"
I literally wore what I wore on the show, so people would be like, "Oh, that's Camel." That was it.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's because people, again, they got a point and whatever. I don't know why it matters. It's also, as an artist, am I not allowed to dress differently? I don't know. I thought it was a weird accusation coming from fellow creators. I was like, all right, but that's always been like that for some reason. And I dress more normal now than ever in my life. I dress like a dad on a fucking soccer match. Like, I wear a dad cap and I wear boat shoes. But even when we went to the Hulk Hogan store, and there was a guy there who was like, "Man, I like your style." I was like, "My style?" He goes, "Yeah, you look like you're out of the 60s. I was like, "It's the shirt and fucking, I don't know, shorts, bro." I don't know.
Hyper says he thought you looked quite snappy. Well, Hyper, he caused major offense with his shirt as well. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, it was a good time. I wouldn't change anything.
No, neither would I. I would change my Photoshop right now, which is being an absolute dick. I'm trying to do something.
Can you go back to that? No. Well, the other, well, okay, the one where he's getting splooged in the face needs a little work, but no, the one, not that one.
Hang on. That one.
Yeah, that's
a little bit suggestive, you think?
Maybe a little.
It's part of a sequence. It's like
that one there.
Splooging.
Is it a window or is it a waterfall?
It's like it's water running down over a window.
Oh, okay. You might want to put some gleam in the window so you separate the two, unless it's supposed to not be there.
Flats, bro. Just flats.
Oh, all right.
I'm trying to work, but I don't know. My Photoshop isn't. Oh, okay. Now it's finally going to let me. Okay. We'll see how we go. Yeah, this is my homage to John Wick I always thought I knew I had a nightclub scene, and I was watching John Wick probably about 4 months ago, and I was like, "That's good colors. I like that's nightclub colors."
Yeah,
It
the
was
cinematography in
green,
those movies is on point.
yeah, green, red, and like with small highlights of yellow, and I was like,
There's
"Yes."
did you see the new one, the fourth one?
No, I'm waiting to see it with Mel. They had it on the plane, and I was like, "Oh," but
There's this awesome shot. It's probably in the last 20, 30 minutes of the movie where it's from the top. It's almost like isometric, and they go through the rooms. It's kind of like a video game, like a Diablo style video game. It's really cool. I haven't seen anything like that. It low key reminds me of there's a scene in Minority Report where there's a top view and you see the little robots going into the rooms and checking people. Do you remember that movie at all?
hang on. So they're going into the rooms to check people.
Yeah,
Minority
there's like these
Report.
little robots and they scan your eyes.
Yes, and
Yeah,
it kind
it's
of
like
goes
that.
around. Yes.
Yeah, but it's much, much cooler. It's much better. And you can see John Wick like go through the corridors and yeah, it's really good.
I didn't, Sumo. I swear. I'll tell you what I watched. I watched some Guy Ritchie movie. Where there's like it's a heist thing. It didn't really feel like a Guy Ritchie movie. It was entertaining. I'm glad I didn't pay for it. It got better. It started weird.
What's
I
it called?
watched in I don't know, it's like Operation something. I don't know. It really
Oh.
didn't feel that much like, especially coming off that one with Charlie Hunnam, which was really good. A recent Guy Ritchie movie.
Was Matthew McConaughey in it?
I think Matthew McConaughey was in the one that I like, but he wasn't in this
Yeah.
one.
Oh, okay. All right. I saw the first 10 minutes of the Matthew McConaughey one. I turned it off. I couldn't follow it.
Why couldn't you follow it? Just like too zany?
It was
It insisted upon itself.
yeah, it was a little pretentious, I thought. And I was like, I probably could have followed it if I really was super interested. I was looking to watch, I want to watch Predator 2. Like I was like,
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm gonna turn my brain off right now. And
Yeah,
I
watched
turned it off.
I put on a Tom Hanks movie at one point. I got about 5 minutes in, and I was like,
Yeah.
The Gentleman.
You gotta be
yes,
in the
that's
mood.
one I like, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just like Tom Hanks is a depressed, grumpy asshole, and I'm like, no thanks. I ended up I watched Puss in Boots instead.
Mm.
I watched all these movies that I knew my kids had watched, but I hadn't watched. We just hadn't watched them together. So I watched Encanto as well. I watched Dungeons and Dragons, which was good.
Yeah, that was all right.
I quite like
All things
Dungeons and
considered.
Dragons. I watched Avatar 2. People hate Avatar 2. I thought it was fine.
Isn't it just part 1 again, but underwater?
Yeah, pretty much.
I realized something here. I can see the chat while I'm in StreamYard.
Yes, and you can chat as well. That's new.
Oh, this is great because I used to have to try to pull a window open.
Mm-hmm.
This is much
annoying.
better. Get rid of that shit.
Jake agrees. Watch Dungeons and Dragons 2. Wasn't as bad. Wasn't bad at all.
Yeah.
I was talking about your hoodie. I want to give one of these.
Oh, go ahead.
You little ripper!
To Mr. Sumo Thori, who has gifted 5 memberships. Thank you so much, Sumo. Winslow, Red Cross, Skip Edwards, Phantom Harlock, Ralph Mack, fellow poker player, and his fellowship Rod Balls, all super bogans. Thank you so much. I can't even remember all the movies I watched. I had to stay awake while everyone else was asleep just to hold off on the.
I mean, we saw a lot while you were here. We watched that Cabin in the Woods.
Screwed again.
We watched Midnight Massacre. Yeah,
what's this? I feel like I should send this to someone, and it becomes a thing that we pass around Comicsgate.
I think you should leave it. You should hide it in my house next time. And I have to find
it. Come back.
Yeah,
that's a good idea. Camel slipped this into my bag without me knowing. I did actually notice. I'm like, I didn't remember that. It was one of those, you got a bags with like a zip on the side. It's like, I didn't notice that was open. And I thought, you don't think of anything of it. And then he sent me a text later and he was like, I hope you like the gift I put in. And I knew exactly where it was. I was like, I knew there was something in there. I went in there and there was this.
I was like freaking out too after I dropped you off. I was like, because I'm thinking like, my head races. And I was like, he's going to go through customs and he's going to open this up and they're going to see it. And he's going to have this face like, I didn't know that was in there. And then they're going to think like he's lying about what he's bringing back from the States. And then they're going to think, I was like, this whole thing is ridiculous. I was like, what have I done? And I was like, well, if he gets home okay, I guess the joke worked. But
the TSA did check my main suitcase and they left a little note in there. Like, what were they in there looking
love
for?
you.
Yeah.
Miss you.
Yeah, I don't know what they were doing, but all's well that
Isn't
ends well.
Nate's girlfriend's TSA? Is that? I thought she worked at the airport, but I couldn't remember.
Oh, really? Yeah, because Nate's a baggage handler.
Yeah,
Isn't that what he said? Is that how
I know that, and I thought I asked Hannah what she was. I thought she said TSA, but I probably fucked that up. I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't know. Don't know.
I just
don't
hope that,
ask, don't tell.
I just hope Nate has another $400 for tomorrow's show. That would be great.
Yeah, that was getting crazy.
Yeah.
Putting my kids through college. Oh, speaking of.
Oh, hello there. So Nathan.
So Nathan of Palestine has joined us. Yeah, he could drop 400 tonight. I mean,
Wait, make sure you have it in the account first.
What am I doing? What am I doing?
Man, what else did we see? We saw Oppenheimer. That was fucking great. That was the best movie I've seen in 5 years.
I was talking about that today at work, and I said, it was just great to have a real movie and made by adults, for adults, and I just I hadn't seen something like that in such a long time. And
no, it was
even
like
the trailers. Yeah, even the trailers at the start look like real movies. It's like we've been transported back to 2005 or something.
Oh, yeah. We saw this one trailer for a movie called The Holdover with Paul Giamatti. Mm-hmm. And it looked like a movie out of the 80s. I mean, it's supposed to be in the 80s. I think it's where it takes place. But it looked like it was made in the 80s.
Yeah. Maybe it was, and they've just been sitting on it for a while after the
50 years.
After the success of the child trafficking one that they sat on for 5 years. Like, oh, let's bring this one back out again. Sir Nate of Callis, thank you so much. He says, "Sup, dudes? We're both baggage handlers."
Oh, okay.
So
all right.
Love at work. You love to see it. And Mo's got to head out. How Mo? He says, "How the panel? How chat?
Night, Mo.
See you tomorrow, Mo."
And then when you left, me and my wife, we saw Mission Impossible.
Oh yeah. Well, how was it?
It's very okay. There's nothing wrong with it. There's actually moments that I quite like. I think if Oppenheimer didn't come out, it probably would have been one of the better movies of the summer. But Oppenheimer, I think that movie's going to win the Oscar. I mean, I think that was so fucking, everything about it was just like amazing. And I think it'll win the Oscar too, because it'll be their excuse to finally give Chris Nolan an Oscar.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it doesn't meet the diversity criteria that they're doing now. I don't exactly know what that criteria is, but I know it's some nonsense.
Yeah. It can also be the people who worked on the film.
Okay. So then I'm sure it'll be fine then. But yeah, MI7, it's a little long. You know what the villain is? Can you guess?
Yeah.
It's actually, I mean, they don't call it by name, but it's Skynet.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a sentient AI that gets like a hold of like nuclear codes or something.
Oh.
And
I hear people complain that it's not a finished movie. It's like 2-parter and it's already really long.
I will dispel that. It's what it
Yeah.
is it's actually a finished movie. So I don't know how many people remember, but in MI4 and MI5, it's the same villain, and he just gets away at the
Yep.
end of 4. That's what happens here, and that's
Okay.
it. There's no reason to call it part 1 except the fact that the villain gets away, and you don't really see how he comes back, or like it's kind of like an Empire Strikes Back situation. It's its own story, which I think is good. It doesn't feel like you absolutely need the second part. So if you don't want to go watch part 2, I don't think it'll make a difference. They allude to Tom Cruise needing to discover another element, but he does stop the big thing. So it's fine. It's very fine.
We are joined by Mr. Phil Diaz, partner in crime, fellow Champagne Stallion, in the chat. How you going, Phil? People saying hail to Phil. If you could save only one person, Rob or Camel, who would you save? Well, I hope that's not aimed at me.
Poor Rob.
Serious Cat says movie seemed like 85% action sequences. I don't think that's a bad thing for a Mission Impossible movie.
It kept moving. I was never bored. The only problem is there are some action sequence. There's a car chase that does not stop. I'm just like, you have to stop. Just fucking edit out half of this. There's no point to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's better than Indy 5 where there's 4 car chases in a row. But man, that movie is utterly forgettable.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like compared to Oppenheimer, compare Oppenheimer to Indiana Jones 5, you know?
Yeah. And I've seen
it always
almost
reminds
every major tentpole movie this year. And then, you and I watched Tenet because you hadn't seen that like right after. And I just kept thinking of Oppenheimer the whole time. I didn't think of, I mean, MI7, I kind of forgot I saw it. I saw it 2 days ago. I was like, oh, yeah, I saw that. The Flash, I can talk about that for hours, but
and you have
just keep talking about it. But yeah, everything else has been kind of like, yeah, it's fine, it's all right. Indy 5 it's fine. It's not terrible, but it's not like you 100% don't need to see it in the theater. It's just kind of blasé.
Maromi says the best car chase is Fury Road. What's that one where the kid is an actual driver? That was a good one. They were bank robbers, and he was the getaway
Baby Driver.
Baby Driver.
I haven't seen that.
That had some pretty epic car chases in it, but the whole point was the car chase. So
yeah. I have to see that still. I haven't seen that. So I saw D&D. Speaking of D&D, I started Diablo 2. Have you ever played that?
Isn't that old?
It's like 20 years old.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I played that. That's saying something if I played it,
Well, they released this resurrected version, so it's all new graphics.
Oh, okay.
And so it's pretty cool. I'm still playing on the PS5, and I'm just about done with Act 1. I found this guy Kane. Now I got to go to a fucking castle and fight a wizard or whatever. And it's good. I mean, it's like all those games, it's 90% inventory management. And then, just spamming the attack button over and over. But yeah, it's fun. The graphics are pretty good. They're pretty updated. But it's still like kind of archaic. It's like, well, it's just, even though it's updated, it feels like it was made for a PC. If you got, it was great. It was on sale for like $13. So I was like, oh shit. All right. I'll try that. So. Junk666 says, asked if I'll be watching the Blue Beetle movie. No, I won't be watching the Hispanic Spider-Man movie. No, it's not interested in that.
I couldn't be less interested in the DCU. Couldn't be less interested.
I was saying that tonight, actually, to Jeremy. I was like, I'm so disinterested in all DC and Marvel movies, and I'm the fucking bread and butter. Like, I will see all of them.
You're the guy.
Yeah. And I'm like, you really, really left a bad taste in my mouth with The Flash. because the way that it ended, and then like more and more is coming out about how it should have ended. It's another Whedon Justice League thing. It's like I just want to see what should have been. And I think that if I had seen that, I would have been much more interested in it. It probably would have made, well, it probably wasn't going to make $2 billion, but it probably would have made maybe $500 million. And it's like you literally brought fucking Michael Keaton back and you couldn't even hit $500 million. What the fuck is wrong with you? So yeah, that was really aggravating. And then you just hear all this other
Michael
shit.
Keaton and Ezra Miller.
Yeah. That didn't help either. And it's funny, if they put the movie out in 2022 like they were supposed to, it would have been before all the Ezra Miller stuff. They would have been before Zaslav, so they would have been able to keep the original ending. And it probably would have done much better. And it would have been running on the high of coming out with the Robert Pattinson movie, but they wanted to spread it out. It's like, I know that sounds like it makes sense, but you had so many people who were hyped for that thing, and then it didn't happen. And oh well.
Got a couple of questions here. Have you seen Bullet Train?
Were you in the room when I asked about that and you said you had seen it, right? Yeah.
I have seen it, yes.
I was like, you said it was like anime, and I was like, I don't want to watch that.
It was like an anime try-hard Tarantino Kill Bill.
Yeah, that's exactly what it looked like. I was like, yeah, that sounds terrible.
And Junk66 asked, will you watch the new Ninja Turtles?
I haven't heard anything bad about it, which I know is very aggravating because people want to dump on that stuff. In fact, even Flash or Yellow Flash said, like, oh, it was pretty good for what it was. No, I probably won't because I don't. Well, a couple of reasons. I don't like that style of animation. I'm the one guy who didn't like the Into the Spider-Verse movie. I thought it was actually, I didn't like it at all, actually. And it wasn't because of the animation, but the animation didn't help things. Also, I don't really. I want to see the Ninja Turtles fight Shredder. I don't care about fucking other gross mutants. I don't care about Scumbag. I think it's like there's some of these D-listers in there. I don't care. So I'll probably, like the Mario movie, I'll wait till it's streaming and I'll watch it as soon as I can when it's streaming, but I don't need to pay money for it. The movie I'm excited to see in the theater is going to be Dune 2. I think that looks great.
Yes, I am pumped for that one as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and then the other thing too is Perth brings up April. It's just like, I don't know. I just don't want to watch it and just be like shrugging or wincing the whole time. Like, it sounds terrible. And I heard, Perth, that Shredder's not in it, so I don't know what that's all about, because I had asked people.
I just heard I had an interview. What was I watching? Midnight's Edge or someone, and it was an interview with Seth Rogen. And he was just banging on about all the mutants, and that's what he loved about the original cartoon, and he wanted to see all the mutants.
Great. Good for you, I guess. I don't have any interest in that. I was saying this to my wife about how aggravated I am about the entire state of action IP movies, because it's not hard. It would be so easy to be like, we're going to tell a tonally accurate, self-serious, well-made superhero movie, and they seem to be fucking it up every single time. And I don't know if it's because they've lost interest themselves, or they're phoning it in, or they're hiring directors that are, it's the silly willies, and they're like, oh, we'll do whatever the fuck we want. But how hard would it be to tell a more adult, darker, like realistic Ninja Turtle movie where they're fighting Shredder on a rooftop? I don't know why that's so hard. Like,
it's
even
funny you should actually mention that, because again, I was just watching a Midnight's Edge movie where his thesis is essentially all the movies are too expensive now, and that has flow-on effects that locks lock studios into the massive big budget, super safe, no risk, nothing out of the ordinary. Everything, just so because everything is so bloated, they have to make $1.5 billion just to make a profit on a movie or something.
Mm-hmm.
And they're kind of in a downward spiral that they need to escape from it to get back to kind of more like movies that like that one you talked about, Paul Giamatti.
Yeah,
I think
like
there's something to that as well.
I don't know why. I don't know if it's an anniversary or what, for whatever reason. I've been seeing a lot of memes recently. Well, it's probably because the new one's out. But, people talking about the 1990 Ninja Turtle movie. And it's fucking great. I remember I was like, even to this day, I think it's one of the top 5, live action superhero movies because it does everything it needs to do. And it looks good. And it has the right tension and the right drama at the right points. And Shredder looks badass, and it's filmed well, and it's edited well, and it's in New York City. I mean, like, there's nothing about it I would change, except for that one scene where you see Donatello's eyes through his mouth. That was kind of stupid looking. But other than that, I mean, it's, is it a perfect movie? Not really, but it's fucking great. And I don't see why they can't do that. Like, even the second one is not as tonally serious as the first one.
I don't even remember the second one.
The second one, they actually changed up so much that you never see them fight with their weapons. That was an actual
yes, they did that in the cartoon as well.
Yeah,
which annoyed me to no end. I remember
and it just felt like, it's kid friendly and this and that, but it's like, but it did so well initially because it was what it was. Yeah. And so as soon as you start shifting into something else, it's like you're losing your audience. I don't understand why this is so difficult, and it's just like this trap that happens decades after decades after decades. And I'm like, it's easy. It's obvious. There's a reason why The Dark Knight and Empire Strikes Back are the best sequels ever, because they kept the tone and they actually ramped up the seriousness of it. When you go in the other direction, you become Police Academy. It's just like, this is fucking goofy garbage. Even Back to the Future 2 is like more intense. Back to the Future 2 is maybe a perfect sequel.
There's a kid who came to my school in, like, I'm gonna say 87, 88, I don't know. He had a pillowcase. I don't know why he brought them in a pillowcase. He had a pillowcase of Ninja Turtle toys, and it was just like the coolest thing I've ever seen. And none of us knew what it was. It wasn't playing yet. And then almost straight away, it was just Ninja Turtles was everywhere. And, we were all rushing out, dragging our mothers out to see if she'd buy us Ninja Turtle figures. And then the cartoon came out, and the first ones I saw, I remember it was so cool. It was really gritty, and they were ninjas, and they were chopping foot soldiers. No, they were the foot, yeah. And they're chopping them in half, and it was great. And then in a couple of years, it was just they were spinning around in their shells and knocking everyone into garbage cans and stuff.
When you're young, when you're like between, well, not young, like older than your son, when you're like, let's say like 8 to 12, maybe like, let's say 7 to 11 or whatever, you're into what your older cousins want. Like, that's the cool shit. And like Ninja Turtles, my older cousins were into that. I was like, what is this? This is like, and when they were into it, it was cool. By the time I got to that age, it was like, oh, this is some goofy nonsense. And then that's why it stopped doing well. And then at that point, the Batman animated series came out, and I was like, okay, I'm done with Turtles. But the audience is there. You don't need to dumb it down. And like, that's still my issue with this Flash movie, because it's just so goofy at points. And there's no reason for it. It could have just been fine. And I genuinely don't understand why it's so difficult. Like, you're sitting in this room, this meeting with all these other people, And it's just like, oh, you know what'd be funny here? I don't want to hear what would be funny with Ben Affleck as Batman. That's terrible sentence that should never be uttered.
Yeah, but you know what it is? It's that originally these properties were made by either made by the people who invented them or in collaboration with the people who invented them. And either or, everyone was really passionate about making this cool new thing. And then they become this, global phenomena. And then it just, the people who made it originally either cash out or whatever, just like Lucas did. And then it's up to the corporation to do it. And like Shanth said this to me, and I was like, yeah, you're so right. They can't make their stuff cool. All they can do is make it less cool. And it's not going to be like, so they're either going to make it really less cool or a little bit less cool. So like in terms of Star Trek, like super less cool.
I guess my argument is
being like me.
But I feel like, well, hire me. Like, there are, no, and I'm not even saying that.
No,
but it's like, how many fucking YouTube channels are out there where they dissect this stuff? Like, this is wrong. Like, there are people who know how to make it good. So why is it that the people who are in possession of the IP are anything but the people who should be doing it?
Because the people who are in possession, who are holding the levers of power, are executives who have no interest in anything other than making money and don't have the ability, I think, to know what will make money. All they want to do is make money. And then the people in the middle are bureaucracy or like diversity hires. It's a mix of bureaucrats and diversity hires. And they get together and they hold the levers of power. And then eventually everyone else leaves and they're literally the ones creating the stuff. I seriously think that's what happens. And then they get together and they like do the committee meetings. There's a actual footage of them with a whiteboard saying, what does Star Wars mean to you? And it's all like diversity points.
Lightsabers.
It's all just like,
Yoda.
Oh, no, totally.
Darth Vader.
Totally. Yeah. I need to shout out D, the bloody legend. He has gifted me 5 memberships. Thank you so much, D. Welcome, Tippy Tail McKitty. It sounds like a fake name. Michael T, Perth Comics, my beautiful dark twisted Fago tree, and Colonel McHugh are all now super bogans. Thank you so much, D.
Well, cheers, big ears.
I would say one of the places or companies that still makes good movies and understands their brand because it is the only thing that they have is the United Artists making Bond. They get it. They understand their own IP. They're trying to make like well-made movies that are going to stand the test of time, that they get their own seriousness. Sometimes they're tonally slightly off, but it's more of a whiplash. They come right back and like, okay, we had a joke for 1 minute, but we're back on story here. But that's mostly just because like James Bond has never been sold outside of UA, so I can't imagine if it was like if suddenly tomorrow like Universal was making Bond movies, God, they'd be like the Fast and Furious movies.
Yeah, they've been fairly consistent, and there's a lot of pressure there because people have this idealized version of Bond. But I don't know if this is blasphemous, but I actually don't really enjoy the older Bonds. I never watched them when I was a kid, so to me they're just kind of ridiculous. I like the kind of Pierce Brosnan forwards sort of era of Bond.
I grew up with the Connerys. I thought they were quite good, but when it got to Roger Moore, it gets a little goofy. It gets actually really goofy.
D says James Bond is dead.
A lot of the what was going on with Bond in the 60s, that was new and different. There wasn't like superhero movies. Like that was pretty amazing stuff. You know, like a lot of what we know about action movies is derived from that stuff.
Hyper Wizard preferred Pierce Brosnan. Wish they would go back to that style with Henry Cavill, kind of like over the top. Yeah, everything's trying to be a bit like Jason Bourne now. Like it's all kind of real. I don't know.
I wonder if they'll actually get Cavill because he's not really. I mean, that Warhammer thing is only that won't make a huge splash. No one will care. But if he's open, and they do need a new Bond, I mean, they'll risk running the against the woke police, but it might be. I mean, it's slam dunk casting. You guys actually British. People have been fan casting him for almost 10 years. Henry Cavill is 40. Yeah, that's fine. He doesn't need to be 35.
Yeah, that's normal, isn't it? Like, what's wrong with?
Yeah,
I think Bond could be up to like mid-50s, easy.
Yeah, past 56, past 57, like because that's what happened with Roger Moore. He's starting getting up there, and it was like, yeah, he already started kind of late, but those last ones, like what's that one where he's with Christopher Walken, View to a Kill? Like he kind of just looks like an old man. It's like
Nugget is down there licking a pom pom on a Santa hat.
what is a pop like a oh
Like a like the little
furball.
soft thing. What the hell are you doing, cat? He should go back to Man from Uncle. Yeah, that was pretty good. I don't know if there's like a big like future in that series. Like many people, Nate thinks Idris Elba would be a great Bond. I don't think he would be interested in that just because he has spoken many times about he doesn't want to be the controversial black actor. Like he doesn't want that to be part of his
defining character either. I agree. I think that's fine. Also, he's kind of old. They were fan casting him like 10 years ago, and it's like, all right, so but by the time they're done with this guy, and then they refresh the campaign, and he's gonna be his late 50s. Like,
Here's an idea. Mighty Healthy says he'd be open to another 00. There you go, like 006 or something, or 009, and it's like he's a completely different kind of 00. I think that would work. No, I don't know. Again, we like the problem is that all be these days at least, all be made by committees. The committees would be filled with diversity hires, and but I guess I mean that occasionally one slips through, and it's kind of like semi-decent. So
what about
Oppenheimer was great.
007? How about that?
Well, 000 is our 911 here. So
Oh. What about 07? It's a prequel series. Young James Bond.
Did you ever you didn't watch Ted Lasso, did you?
No, I don't have Apple TV.
Yeah, so there's a joke in Ted Lasso where he was like he's an American working in England, and he's like, you need to call 911. And they're like, it's 999 here. And he's like, what? Really? That just feels like you'll be butt dialing emergency. You get like 10 of that a day. And the guy's like, yeah, it really does seem kind of easy. And I'm like, oh my God, that is so true. All the time, I'm accidentally calling emergency and I have to go, oh crap. And because it can just happen. You just like accidentally hit 000.
Yeah.
Just, in the course of your day.
Ken Jackben says James Bond Jr. learned the game from his uncle James. Now he's heir to the James. It's heir to the name James Bond. Come on, Ken Jackman. James Bond Jr. No one can stop him, but scum always tries. Young Bond cuts through each clever try.
What are you singing? What is that?
It's the James Bond Jr. song. It was like there was a cartoon in the 90s.
I've never heard that in my life.
It was terrible. Like they never had him in a tuxedo. They had him in a tuxedo in like the intro, like like the cartoon intro. That was it. They made all these toys, and the toys never had him in a tuxedo, and they never gave him any skis, and they totally missed the point of what he is and was, and it doesn't even make sense because he's James Bond Jr., but it was his uncle that was James Bond. But it's like, well, how is he a junior if his uncle?
Yeah, that doesn't make any
yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Shumo says, ever since his stay at Camel's house, Bancroft is worried about things just happening. No. Camel was a gracious and very nice host, he and his wife. I even befriended your cat, which I hear is true. Not many people impressive. Do. Yeah.
Every morning I'd come in with breakfast and toast and
breakfast in bed,
orange juice, on a tray for Mike, and put it down and had the newspaper for him and rubbed his feet.
It was lovely.
Yeah, I said, "Welcome to America, buddy."
Yeah, it was great. Have you got comfortable with the new Photoshop gradients yet? Getting there. They're a little bit. Actually, they do seem to be a lot more powerful, but I'm figuring it out. What I'm not comfortable with is the fact that my Photoshop keeps. I don't know. It's like something going wrong with it. Like I can't switch between files, which is an annoyance, but I'll deal with it. Generous, you might say, says Sumo Thori. I was talking, it's funny, my colleague at work went to, is it Napa Valley? That's in California.
Yeah.
Went to Napa Valley right at the same time I was over there. So she was flying over like a couple of days after I did. And then we was kind of like swapping stories on America. And she said the exact same thing I did, which was she couldn't believe how nice Americans are, how polite and friendly. And yeah, you guys really are. It's kind of great, actually. And she said she was nervous, and she's in California, mind you. She said she was nervous about all the guns. And I said that's a normal thing in Australia.
Yeah.
Every time I would mention going to the States, the first thing I get is, oh my God, you're going to get shot. And we started talking about how, well, in states where they're really strict on guns, it's actually a lot dicier, I hear. But
no one hates the U.S. more than entitled leftist U.S. residents.
Mm.
And it's literally a case of I've never been anywhere. I have no idea what the world is like. And I'm going to dump all over this thing because honestly, I wish I had something I didn't, which is I wish I had more money, or I wish I had more prestige, or wish I was getting laid, which is about 90% of it. That's it.
That's what it is.
Yes.
Well, that was, that was all really she had to say about like anything negative. That just there was a sort of a general nervousness, but I think a lot of that is just you grow up watching TV shows and the news and movies and stuff, and you get this idea of what America's like. But we were pretty much in agreement. As America is very well, at least where we went, everyone was very nice. It's very like I tell you, like Florida is super manicured and really pretty and clean and everything. I thought it was great. Obviously, it's not going to be like that everywhere.
No, New York is a bit of a shithole in places.
Mhm.
It's just a lot of, you go to a deli, what do you want? It's like,
Yeah,
that's unfortunate. That's where I grew up. And so, like, I kind
yeah,
of have that
yeah,
standoffishness to me sometimes.
that's a bit like what it's like here as well.
When I was, oh man, it was probably about 10 years ago now. I went to my old high school and I wasn't really subbing. I was just like helping my teacher with something. I can't remember why I was there, and she had to go to the restroom or something. And she's like, "Well, can you watch the class?" I said, "That's fine." So some kid came up to me. He's probably about 14. And he's like, "Mr. Valley." And I literally said, "What do you want?" He didn't know how to respond. I said,
How old
I
are these
mean,
kids?
13, 14.
Okay, all right, okay.
And I just said,
I
"What
thought
do
it
you
was like
want?"
a little 6-year-old. Like, what do you want?
Well,
I want my
he didn't
mommy.
he didn't know how to. I didn't mean to even say it like that, but yeah, I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, what can I help you with?"
Jake says the only place I've had a gun pulled near me in public was in New York, where they're illegal, aren't they? Like it's like heavily restricted in New York, isn't it? That's what I heard.
My brother had guns pulled on him by the cops.
Oh,
Yeah, but that's because he was in Greenwich, Connecticut, or Stamford. So much of the tri-state area is such a fucking police state. No one will ever admit it, but it totally is. And he was just sitting in the back of a car. And they fucking came up, drew guns on him. He's like, "What are you doing?"
Jane Max says, tell your coworker there's only like 15 to 20,000 gun-related murders a year in a country of 330 million. See, that's the thing. I'll tell you two things there. Australians, we find it difficult to grasp just how many people live in the United States. Remember, there's 25 million Australians living in roughly the same landmass as kind of, what do you call it, mainland or whatever it is, the like continental, I don't know, whatever it is, the not counting Alaska. So roughly the same amount of land, but 25 million people. So we can't really fathom just how many people that is. But you say that number 15 to 20,000, Australians is like, well, freak out. Like that's crazy. We probably have 15 to 20 in Australia a year. Actually, I'm going to Google that. I don't even know because you do have guns here. There's a misconception that there's no guns in Australia. We do have guns. Gun-related murders, Australia. Let's have a look.
Well, let's see here. I want to check something else out. That is 20,000 out of 300. Actually, let me change that to 3. Yeah, 20,000 out of 330 million. That's about just over 0.5%. So that's honestly, you could even make an argument that was about the R naught of what they expected the death toll to be for COVID, which is just slightly above what it is for the flu. So you have just about as the same percentage of dying of getting shot that you do of dying from the flu.
Yeah. So we had 229 gun deaths in Australia in 2019. That's the latest I can get. And it's been fairly stable for about 20 years. So it's just not really a thing here that people think about. And J-Max points out most of these murders occur in like 5 cities. Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing with statistics. They kind of paint a picture that doesn't tell the truth. It kind of can appear like something, but No, I felt incredibly safe. Even when I was walking around Tampa at 2 a.m. in the morning, down a dark street, which I probably
Yeah.
shouldn't have, but I felt pretty safe. NZ guy, you live in Aussie? Well, I do. I am Aussie. Welcome to the show. So Nate says, did you see the news story about the gentleman in Australia that had an underground bunker with firearms and ammunition? No, is it the guy whose bunker it came up like it was all hidden under a thing? Yeah, I think I might have seen that. I mean, you're allowed to have firearms here. You just need to have them registered. That's all. And you can't have handguns unless you are unless you're a competitive handgun shooter. And then even then, I think you have to keep the bullets at the club and your handgun in a safe at home. I don't know. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. Buddha Bear says, I'm also tired of hearing how great Australia and Japan's gun laws are. You know, two islands can patrol their borders very well, not America. Yeah, exactly. It's nowhere. People they tried to do that on friggin' John Oliver, and it was the craziest. That was actually one of the moments where I was like, wow, John Oliver is just like rampant propaganda. This is not.
Oh yeah, it's really bad. It didn't used to be that bad. He used to do
Yeah,
more.
I thought it used to be kind of innocuous.
Yeah, it was just like, oh, let me tell you why like payday loans is a scam. It's like, okay, that's good. But then it started to shift into just alt left, anti-conservatism, anything. And it was like, and I know people who still watch it, and it's just like, what are you fucking doing? Like, but I think it was so slow over like 5-6 years that they didn't realize like a frog in a hot plate that like things were boiling around them.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're just in the middle of it, and they're just like, oh, this is how it is. It's like, no, you're an idiot. I mean, it's not that's not how it is. Bill Maher seems to get that that's not how it is. He always seems to talk about it. But at this point, it's like people don't want to listen, or you're getting certain aspects of the left that don't want to admit to being an idiot for the last 5 years, but then you're getting others that are doubling down on it. So.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I'll tell you what, it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting leading up to the friggin' election, because I just feel like with every week, more and more people get kind of red pilled to, the machine that they're inside that they otherwise hadn't seen. D says he has a loaded Desert Eagle. It's a sweet gun. Well, there you go. Yeah, maybe I don't know. It might be. I would imagine here in Victoria, it's quite restrictive, but in other states, it could be a lot freer. I think D's up in New South Wales. I imagine in Queensland is probably the freest you can have guns. But I didn't realize you could actually have handguns. I remember talking about this with some people, and they're like, you can get them as long as you're part of a shooting club. But no, I think we have more guns now than when they did the buyback in the 90s.
How's that even possible?
Well, because it was a whole big political stunt. Oh, we're getting rid of the guns. I mean, some people did. They sold them. They probably turned a nice profit. I don't know. And then the guns are still available. So D says, the thing is, in New South Wales, the cops can show up anytime. To do what, D? Check your gun? I don't know. Junk666 says, France has had race riots for weeks and no one reported it last month. Yeah, well, they have that all the time. France is, sadly, I feel, lost. I think it's probably going to be one of those situations like the Moors and Spain. And it's going to take 300 years or so for France to come out of this.
Oh, well.
They had about 5 or 6 opportunities to vote out these
that's what I mean.
Globalist, socialist, and they're like in the thick of it. They are in deep with the UN Council and the World Economic Forum. Like they are like chalk and cheese together. And the French had ample opportunity, but they didn't want to appear racist, and now they're having race riots, and all their churches are being burned down, and
Oh well. Again,
that's what I
have no
thought.
empathy.
They could
Like, well,
expect. Yeah. The baguettes have fallen. Buddha Bear says Bill Maher always gets it, does nothing about it until a Republican pisses him off, and then he prays for economic downturn. Yeah, look, like anyone, he said some dumb shit. I think he's just a lot more aware of what the situation is than most people in his situation. So I guess it's sort of like, I mean,
it's not a great argument, but no one's perfect. Like,
exactly.
It's just like, I'm sure, anybody has said things before that you're just like, oh, I agree with them up until this point. It's like, well, and people are allowed to say things 30 years ago that they don't agree with now. It's like, that's part of that's life.
Let's laugh. All right. Did you see that lady in San Francisco crying about crime? And she blamed it on white men.
Oh, yeah?
I'm sure that's what it's all about. And someone pointed out also as well, Japan is essentially an ethno-state. Oh, not essentially, it is an ethno-state. So, it's the same with Poland. For the most part, the kind of Saudi Arabian states, even though they do have different people who live there, it is kind of like everyone is sort of on the same team, I suppose. Whereas in these great big multicultural melting pots, I like how everyone like tried to sell the melting pot as that's a really good idea. Would you want to live inside a melting pot?
Yeah.
It can work in ways, but it could also go really bad, especially if there's no shared values. If you've got people who
that's what happens. People say, oh, New York's such a great place because everyone's living together. But if you've actually been to New York, it's not really like that. Like, it feels like that when you're on the subway. But like the Hasids have their own section. And like,
it's like ghettos.
Like there are sections, like Harlem is its own thing. Like people congregate with their kind. That's just, and so it's like, oh, everyone's together, but they're not. It's just like a microcosm of the whole world. And then they're fucking fighting with each other on a smaller level. So it's just, it sounds smart and it sounds kind and it sounds just like kumbaya, whatever. But it's like, no, no, you're wrong. I'm sorry. Sounds like someone who is either trying to convince themselves because they live in New York, but of course they want to live in a gentrified area, or they don't live in New York and they've never been to New York and they have no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah. It is, as long as the ideas are upheld. Yeah, as long as there's shared values. No one has to agree, even politically or religiously or anything like that. It's just like, as long as there's a kind of a shared sense of what we're doing in a country, what we hear. I feel like a lot of that is kind of coming to Australia as well. This has been this building sense of Australia is bad. Australia is a bad place. It's it's a holdover from a colonial empire, British Empire, and it's like, God, it just keeps growing and growing. Shared values and traditions. Yeah, and the kids these days, they're not taught to celebrate their history and ancestry. They're kind of taught to be ashamed of it, and it's really sad. I mean, as parents, you do that, but in school, they don't get any of that. Are you throwing up?
Oh, joys of having a
hairball.
cat.
think he's just got a hairball, fur ball, whatever it is.
There was a article. It was actually New York Times was doing a Vice type show. It was about 5 years ago or so. And one of the episodes, they talk about having a school system that is more open to not races specifically, but like people from all over town, because there are certain school districts that are more affluent, because of the people who live in that area.
Mhm.
And so they talked about like, how is it possible to get more people from other districts to come to these schools? And it really came down to, it was a bunch of PTA moms who really just didn't like the idea that their kids were going to be sharing a bus with poor people. And that's all it was. And so essentially they created a lottery system. And if you got picked in this lottery, you were able to go to this school. But you had to find your own way there. And I think you had to have like an incredible GPA to get there to begin with. And it was just like, so you're not really doing anything. It was just it was all a publicity stunt, because they very easily could have just opened up the schools, the private schools, to be public schools, but they didn't want that. And it was literally because they did not want to have, any outside ethnicity or, lower paying people or whatever it was. So it's like, don't sit there and proselytize or try to convince me that it's like this deep-seated issue. It's like you had a chance to fix it and you opted not to fix it.
We have a thing here. CD. We have a thing here at the moment called The Voice, which sounds like a TV show where they sing, but it isn't. It's a referendum on. They want to add in. They want to make a. They want to change the constitution to say that there are two kinds of people. There's Indigenous Australians and everyone else. And if you're Indigenous, you're kind of like semi-governed by a separate government, like your own government. And yeah, they've been trying to push this through, like get everyone on board with it, but it's actually tanking, I hear. I don't pay attention to the news anymore, but I hear it's not going well for them. And every time I hear someone stand up, and they make a really reasoned, rational argument as to why this is a terrible idea, and then every time I hear someone talking for it, it's usually just platitudes and emotion and just kind of like quasi fake history and oppression and they love this term, close the gap. We need to close the gap, and they're talking about the gap between how Aboriginals are performing in society and everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like an ex-prime minister just got up and said, I mean, they want to phrase it like, oh, no one's been listening for decades. He's like, no, people have been listening very closely and to lots of different people for 100 years, trying to help. In many ways it's hurt, in other ways it's helped, and it's good and bad and all that, this and that. But none of anything the government has ever done has changed the fact that up in the areas where most Aboriginals live, the kids don't go to school and the parents don't go to work. Nothing has been able to change that in decades. And it's like, damn, that's just like straight talk. Okay, well, what is then the government's role in this? What can anyone? You can't force people to participate in something that they don't necessarily want to participate in.
Yeah.
And Like, I know, it's just like, what are you gonna do? And I don't think like, oh, we're gonna, make it enshrined in law that there are two different kinds of citizen. I think that's gonna help. And he said, like, they're supposed to be representative of. They're supposed to be. That's what's called the voice. They're the voice of Indigenous people in Parliament. It's like we have 11 Indigenous, like, parliamentarians already elected by the people in Parliament. They are the voice. That's what the Parliament is. It's the voice of the people. Anyway,
It's not good enough.
I don't think it's going to go through by the looks of it. So it'll all just be a massive, government blunder, and they've spent hundreds of millions of dollars.
It looks good for, constituents and voters. Look, we tried.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of these times you see these bills, like in California, like we're going to pass something so that like, some guy can go in your house and kill you and your wife and get away free. It's like, what? It's like, what? But it's like, it'll never pass. But if they present the bill, then, they look good with their voting base. And that's all that matters.
Yeah, it's like the, if someone breaks into your house, they'll be able to sue you if they trip on something.
Yeah. It's like, what are you talking about?
Is that a good idea?
What other movies did we watch while you were here? What did you end up thinking of the cabin movie, The House in the Woods, or whatever it was called?
I talked to Mel about that.
Yeah.
And I remember watching it. I think I enjoyed it enough. But thinking about it, hold on a second, I gotta let this cat out. I'm afraid it's gonna like take a dump on the carpet or something. Get out of here. Go get. I don't know if it was a movie. I don't think it was. I think it was 3/4 of a movie.
That's
feel like,
thought.
Yeah, it's. I
It
know
was
what
a
it was
premise
trying to
without.
do.
There wasn't
Yeah.
much of a payoff.
Antoine's like, it was Camel and Mike on the couch eating popcorn under a shared blanket. Did we sit on? We were on the same couch together, weren't we? Watching that.
Yeah, but me and my wife were on one side, and you were on the way on the other end.
Yeah, it's a big couch. It's a big couch. I liked. It's like, this is M. Night Shyamalan for anyone who doesn't know. Emma Romy has it all set up, no payoff. That should be the tagline, like on the DVD.
The payoff is
all set up, no payoff.
Yeah.
Because
the surprise is there's no
creepy.
surprise. It's like,
Yes.
okay.
It is creepy, and there is tension, and there are moments where you're like, oh damn, there is that, and you do care enough in that you're kind of get invested, like, oh, you don't want to see another person die, or you don't
Right.
But at the end of it, and the whole, because I mean, spoilers, it's about kind of preventing the Armageddon, and I feel like for the setting that the movie was set in, which was a single cabin, it was almost, if it wasn't for the cinematography and the actors and everything, it was almost came off as B grade.
Well, they had a couple of
it was-
cutaways where you kind of got to see the gay couple before they were in the cabin.
Yeah. I forgot
There's
about
one
that.
moment though where they meet the gay couple's parents. It's like, wow, she drove 45 minutes or drove 7 hours to stay here for 45 minutes. And I just felt like nobody would do that. Nobody on earth would do that. Like, I'm going to get in the car for 7 hours to go stay somewhere for 45 minutes and leave. It just felt like kind of an extreme lie.
Yeah, it was a bit like, they were trying. It was weird that they injected. They even mentioned that in the movie. Like they went out of their way to say, we're not homophobic at all. This has nothing to do with your sexuality. We didn't even know. Like, it's kind of like, it said nothing to do with the movie.
Yeah.
And it really did feel ham-fisted. And it also felt like what they always do, where they pretend that it's 1960 and not 2023. Where in reality is, if someone comes out as gay in 2023, the most likely response is, yeah, we know. Everyone's known.
Yeah.
Like,
we're glad you figured it out.
I know, right? Or, okay, great. It's not going to be, oh my God, how shocking. So it's called A Knock at the Cabin, Michael. And
What's
it's got,
interesting is
Batista in it.
there was a movie that came out, I don't know, 12 years ago. It was called A Red State. Have you heard of this?
No.
The Kevin Smith movie. And I wouldn't say it's the same movie, but it's kind of the same movie. And the whole premise is there's one of these abortion cults or something, or whatever they are. And I think they kidnap some kids. God, it's been so long since I've seen it. And they keep telling them that end days are coming, and that the horsemen and the apocalypse and the whatever that song is in the Bible, like when the skies fall, is upon them. And it ends with the angels singing, and you're like, holy shit, they were right the whole time. But then it turns out that it was just a college nearby playing a prank, and they had a giant speaker system that was, and it kind of has this funny kind of twist to it. But it's much better, and it's much smarter. There's actually a Kevin Smith movie, but I would recommend.
I just feel like the contrast between what was happening in the cabin to the scale of the problem was too vast for me to care about. It was too big. It was too.
Well, there are elements in that movie where they're telling you, like, they turn the TV on and they're like, look at all the stuff that's happening. But like, yeah, but it would have already been on the news. They're like, oh, look, children are dying in the hospital from a plague. And it's like, yeah, but that wouldn't happen suddenly. All of us, like, that wouldn't be a thing. That would have been like weeks that would lead up to that. It wouldn't just be like a news report that would come out of nowhere at an hour after, some tsunami hit. That doesn't even make sense.
I think a movie that did this sort of thing great was The Devil's Advocate, where you had that biblical tie-in, and even when there was a reveal, and that was good, like there was a reveal that they'd built up to at the end, and it felt, to me at least, rewarding. Whereas in this Knock at the Cabin, like I said, the reveal was there was no reveal. It was just exactly what they were saying the whole time, and it was like, oh, all right.
Yeah. It would have been better if they could have left it up a little to interpretation.
Yeah.
There's a scene
it was
where,
so straightforward.
Yeah, at the end, the family gets into the car of Baptista and his friends, and they find all of this stuff about like how they say who they are. It would have been so much better if maybe they find that, but then they also find like a file from like a mental institute, like how these 4 people met and escaped. Then you're like, all right, were they feeding each other delusions?
Yeah.
Like, then you would have been like, well, that's more interesting. But there's nothing like that. They just like, oh, he really was a soccer coach. Great. Whatever. Drive away now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a. I mean, I don't know if this is an indictment or a celebration of Manson Brothers Midnight Zombie Massacre, but I was kind of enjoying this more but
Yeah, me
not
too.
because of the movie, but because of all of us watching it together. Or was it just you and me watching it together?
Yeah,
Did
no,
watch this
Sam.
one?
She watched the last half. The first half, she didn't watch. She was taking a shower or something.
This movie is we don't even know who gave this to us now. I thought
I think it was Twirly Wolf. I'm pretty sure it was.
You think it was Twirly Wolf?
Yeah.
So this is a DVD that someone gave us, potentially Twirly Wolf, at the convention, and it's a like independent zombie wrestling movie. And my God, is it heavy on the wrestling? I mean, if you're not a wrestling fan, there's wrestling jargon in here.
Oh
You're
yeah.
gonna miss like half of what's going on.
I truly, because I don't follow wrestling, it was like they were talking another language. I had no idea.
Yeah,
I was like, all
I
right.
had to explain it, and I didn't even think it's a Blu-ray. You're right, J-Max. Yeah, I didn't. That's why I said Camel. I don't have a Blu-ray player, but he gave it to me anyway.
You're gonna get one. When you go to Best Buy, like, do you have any DVDs? Oh yeah, I know what I'm watching tonight.
What happens under the couch blanket stays under the couch blanket. No, it was all above board. But yeah, we enjoyed it. It was funny. It was obviously, what would you call that? C grade? I don't know. I don't know.
I think I got the
quality.
I got the sex dungeon flu. Sorry.
The quality of the like the what would you call it? The film.
Well, the editing, the cinematography was all legit, like legit. I actually was like, what kind of camera did they use on this? It looked really sharp. It looked like they had good lenses. You could tell they only had about 4 because there were a lot of claustrophobic shots where they didn't need any, and they didn't have enough pullback shots. But yeah, it was like the lighting was good. The audio was like all of the stuff that you would expect to be less than in an indie movie was actually better than a lot of Netflix shows. It's just the script itself was a little, and I think someone even wrote this on a review. It was like they wanted Kevin Smith to write it. And so it had this kind of quirky Clerks dialogue, which is like, yeah, that's all right. I don't know. Like it didn't warrant it. It was it probably would have been better if it played it a little bit straighter. But then it wouldn't be a goofy garbage movie to laugh at. So
yeah. Exactly. There's value in watching these sort of independent movies and chuckling at the kind of clunky dialogue and the way what it's going on, because then it just makes it that much more fun when random zombie gore happens, or like that guy having that great line, and you like that made it that much better that it was such a standout. People are like surprised I don't have a Blu-ray player. It's like, what do you mean you haven't bought anything? No, I haven't bought anything new in the past 20 years. I don't need to. I can just watch stuff online. I don't own any physical stuff. Anymore.
Hey, I can show shit too. Look at that.
Can you?
Yeah, I just pressed this up.
Oh. Well, there you go.
The future. Oh man, I'm going to have to find a way to get rid of Rob tomorrow.
I know, right? When Rob figures this out.
Anyway, Junk 666 wants to know, was it better than Platoon? You have to ask Mike.
Platoon was an emotional experience. Like Camel, crammed his hand down your throat and like grabbed you by the heart and ripped it out.
It's a real tour
go
film,
that far.
Yeah.
It's a tour de force.
Yeah, Midnight Massacre. It's a little bit more goofy and lighthearted. So it's not fair to compare, Fellini to James Wong. So
exactly. Anyway, I hear the kids are back from jiu-jitsu, so I'm gonna go in and have dinner. I have a couple of shows tomorrow. Actually, I'm going on to Dojo Coons. I'll be doing my show, my sort of normal show. I think I might. I don't know. Actually, I got to check that out. I got to reach out. But of course, we have Camel Nights, Leighton Gay tomorrow. I assume we do.
Yes, you do.
Same time, same bet time,
Same
bat
gay
channel.
time, same gay channel.
That's it. So thank you everyone for hanging out here in the chat tonight at this late hour. Wow, 50 people here on YouTube, 17 on Rumble.
Ooh.
Amazing. I see Jim Cox is over there, and Ran Nada, and Cowabunga Joe. So thank you everyone. Thank you, Camel, for hanging out, and I will see you guys tomorrow. All right, bye.
Individually, we are weak, like a single twig, but as a bundle, we form a mighty